Welcome to Valletta, Malta. You find me here in probably one of the most monumental cities in all of the Mediterranean. And I kid you not, this is a monumental city, the capital of Malta, a capital that has seen some of the strongest men walk the footsteps that you're about to walk with me on. This is the city that experienced the Siege of Malta. The Siege of Valletta, when strong, brave Christian men stood up against tyrants from the east. This is where it all happened, although this memorial right behind me is to commemorate the fallen from the Great War and the Second World War, and a beautiful monument it is. I love the fact that the fires keep burning. Remember the good, brave men that lost their lives and fought so valiantly in the Second World War. But shall we go explore Valletta? Because I'm excited, so come join me. And of course, for those that don't know, Malta used to be a British colony. Fine British colony it was. This monument was dedicated to the people of Malta by George VI. It says, from Buckingham Palace, the Governor of Malta, to honour the brave people, and I award the George Cross to the island fortress of Malta, to bear witness to a heroism and devotion that will long be famous in history. April 15th, 1942. So the war wasn't even over then when this was sent from Buckingham Palace to the Governor of Malta. In the name of the people of the United States of America, we salute the island of Malta. So hang on, this is all the great leaders basically saluting and paying tribute to the people of Malta. So this is from Franklin D. Roosevelt. December 7th, 1943, the war is still going on. Under repeated fire from the skies, Malta stood alone but unafraid in the centre of sea, one tiny bright flame in the darkness, a beacon of hope for the clearer days which have come. Malta's bright story of human fortitude and courage will be read with wonder, with gratitude through all the ages. What was done in this island maintains the highest traditions of the gallant men and the women who from the beginning of time have lived and died to preserve civilization for all of mankind. And that's the story that we're going to keep seeing as we walk along Valletta, the fact that the people of Valletta are considered some of the bravest people to have walked this planet. The fact that they were able to fend off the Ottomans in the 16th century and also be part of the Great War. The Great War, let me assure you that I am fully conscious of the important and the patriotic part that Malta has played during these years of warfare. King George V, 3rd of 11th, 1918. So just after the First World War, they paid tribute to the Maltese. It's quite a beautiful monument, I think. And here we have Galanta. It's a bit faded, but beautiful. Really beautiful monuments.
The last symbol, of course, was the Maltese cross. I should really have mentioned that. And thank you for joining me today. Remember, this video has timestamps.
Now, to enter Valletta, the real heart of Valletta, you've got to get inside the city walls. And these city walls, you've got to realise, stem back to the 16th century when they were basically built by the Knights of St. John. And that, for me, is something quite incredible. The Knights of St. John, they were disposed and from roads, pushed back. The Spaniards said, well, we need you in Malta and Tripoli, which is present-day Libya. They realised Tripoli was a lost cause because the Ottomans had Tripoli all surrounded, and they found themselves saying, right, we're going to put fortifications down in Malta. And in doing so, they built these city walls all around the city to protect it, not because they thought there would be invasion, they knew there would be an invasion. Having read the history books for years and years trying to understand this place, now getting to walk before I enter Valletta, because I haven't been inside yet, before I enter, to see just what this city is all about. This is almost the equivalent to understanding the siege of Vienna, when the Poles and strong Europeans basically defended Vienna at the gates of Vienna. This is the equivalent. This is people saying, no, we will not lay down our arms to tyrants. We will not submit to Islam.
We shall never surrender!
And this is what Malta is all about. And it's why 98% plus of Malta is Christian. It's the most Christian country in all of the world.
While making this edit, I did have to check myself there. Malta is one of Europe's last strongholds when it comes to Christianity. As stated in my past videos on Malta, tradition says St. Paul himself shipwrecked here in 60 AD and converted the islands. For most of the 20th century, the statistic on 98% of the population identifying as Christian was correct. But sadly, like the rest of Europe, changing demographics, immigration, secularization, and generations stepping away from Christianity are reshaping the picture dramatically fast. By 2021, the figure had fallen to around 89%, and the trend shows no sign of slowing as immigration increases year by year. A quiet but profound shift in one of the continent's most powerful corners.
For a lot of people arriving in Valletta, the first thing they will probably see is this. This is Triton's fountain. What I like to think is mermen, really. They look like mermen, and this is a beautiful fountain. It was created in the 1950s, and it's a centerpiece as people are welcomed into the city that was once so difficult for the invaders to get into. This is the old city walls. And as you can see, as we enter through the gates of the city, you can see it's all being modernized. And like I say, first time, even though I've been on Malta now, I've been here about 5 days. It's the first time I've actually come to the capital because I've been elsewhere. So I'm now heading into the capital. It's almost like you've got to cross the moat to get in. They've turned the old city walls into something quite beautiful. Let me just show you, pan this round.
These towering fortifications encircling Valletta were born directly from the ashes of the Great Siege of 1565. Before them, the only defence of this peninsula was a small fort of St. Elmo, constructed in 1552. During the siege, which we're going to learn more about later, it endured weeks of ferocious Ottoman bombardment, its heroic stand costing the invaders thousands before finally falling. Victorious but scarred, the Knights of St. John vowed never again to be vulnerable. From 1566, under Italian engineer Francesco Lamparelli, they erected these revolutionary walls, angled bastions for crossfire, high cavaliers and deep ditches, turning Valletta into Europe's most impregnable fortress.
This gives you an idea of the immensity of just the city walls. Just look at the size from the old wall at the top here all the way down here. Now you try as an invader to get through these city walls. The gates of the city wall right here, it wouldn't have been this modern entrance back in the 16th century. It would have been a very imposing entrance. Guards, knights, soldiers. Now we have a man playing keyboard from Ukraine. Very different welcoming to what would have been here previously. But you can see the sort of the modernism is the first thing that greets us as we enter Valette. Very, very different. Got the old columns in the distance. You've got to realise the Romans were also here. The Phoenicians were here. Egyptians were here. You know, there was all people have crossed this land. I think even Perseus was here. This is the land of the nymph. That's what they say in the Odyssey. They reckon Malta is that land.
Right here on Republic Street is Pjazza Teatru Rjal, the site of Valletta's original opera house, and it was a magnificent neoclassical theatre that opened in 1866. It swiftly became Malta's cultural heart, hosting lavish operas and performances attended by British royalty and islanders alike. However, disaster hit twice. A massive fire hit this place in 1873, destroying the interior, but it rose again from the ashes, only to be reduced to rubble by the Germans on the 7th of April 1942. After lying in ruins for decades, the site was reborn in 2013 as a beautiful open-air theatre, cleverly incorporating the surviving columns and in a way giving a nod to Valletta's unbreakable spirit.
Could be back in England. There's a what looks like a pub, but no, it's not. It's a wine shop and whiskey shop. Wine, food and wine. It's called the Wembley store. HSBC. It is one of the strange things that you notice as you walk around Valletta and all of Malta is the, sort of, the little snippets of Britishness that you see. You'll see everything from the red phone boxes to just small little things, you know, from the British banks to, well, there's not many of those left anymore. They're conglomerates of other things, aka HSBC.
As I stroll along Republic Street, it gives me the perfect opportunity to thank today's sponsor, Omio. Omio makes travel planning a breeze. Pick and book flights to anywhere in the world, maybe getting you to Malta affordably from wherever you are. Plus, wherever you are in the world, this app doesn't just have information on the latest flights, it also has information on trains and buses. And if you're in Valletta like I am today, you might look at ferries to Gozo because this app shows the times and the best prices. Perfect for easy island hopping once here, or onwards to Sicily in Italy for the next country adventure. The nice thing about Omio, it works either as a mobile app on your phone or via their slick website. Super convenient in my opinion. If new to the app, use my code WANDERING. That will give you 10% off your next booking. Omio makes turning these travel dreams into actual bookings. I've used it loads for seamless, stress-free plans. Link in the description, and a huge thanks for Omio for being today's sponsor. Now let's get back to exploring more of Valletta.
The street that we are now heading down basically heads us all the way to the ocean. It's a grid-like pattern. If you're from New York, you'll feel very at home here because everything's grid-like. You're not going to get lost in the center of Valletta because it's just which road are you on or which pedestrian street. And as you'll see, it's all pedestrian right now. I couldn't help myself. I had to head into the Museum of Archaeology. It starts obviously with the Neolithic, then we can head to the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, we can continue onwards. When in Malta, you've got to check out various museums, and this being the first one in Valletta.
This building that we stand in was actually built in the late 1500s for the French Knights of St. John. And I really love how this ancient archaeological museum links to the knights that we will be discussing in more detail later. As stated, this is the National Museum of Archaeology, and for anyone who's been following my Malta series on the playlist, it's the ideal spot to tie together those enigmatic stories we've uncovered so far. You've seen me puzzle over Malta's mysterious cart ruts in that video where I seeked out the deep grooves etched into limestone that still baffles experts today. And then across to Gozo, where we explored the dramatic citadel rising above Victoria, delving into the island's hidden pilgrimage sites, blending faith and nature. And then later unraveling the giant legends of Gigantia and the giantess Sansuna. All those places point back to Malta's incredible prehistoric past, and here in Valletta, the museum houses the most exquisite artifacts that bring it vividly to life. From the Neolithic era of around 5000 BC right through to the Phoenicians. The display starts with the earliest settlers, simple stone tools showing how they farmed and survived on these islands without metal or wheels. But the real wonder emerges in the temple, period rooms, intricate red pottery, animal carvings, and those iconic human figurines that hint at a sophisticated spiritual world. The undisputed star? Well, that would be the sleeping lady, the tiny, perfect crafted figure from the Hal Safalani hypogeum, lying serenely on her side, head on a pillow, pleated skirt flowing. She's literally a window into rituals that can only imagine trance, death, and rebirth. Then there is the voluptuous Venus statues and fertility figures, like the famous Venus of Malta from the Hagen Kim, exaggerated curves symbolizing abundance, motherhood, power. Seeing their delicate details up close, you appreciate the extraordinary artistry of people carving with just stone tools over 5,000 years ago. The collection moves into the Bronze Age and the defensive weapons and tools before Phoenician traders arrive around 800 BC, bringing elegant glass, gold jewelry, Egyptian-influenced amulets like the Horus Anubis pendants, and even human-shaped sarcophagi that speak of elaborate afterlife beliefs. Standing amongst these treasures, it's humbling to think this small archipelago nurtured one of the world's earliest monumental cultures, builders of massive temples, creators of haunting art, all without leaving us a single written clue.
In the Museum of Archaeology in the centre of Valletta, there's a segment basically talking about the cart ruts. There's a very brief display in this corner of the museum. It's fascinating, but they really don't know.
If the cart ruts video sparks your curiosity about how they moved those megastones, or Gozo's giants and sacred sites left you wanting more, this museum, at least for me, connected it all very beautifully. Moments like these are a reminder for myself and probably for you guys of why Malta is so special. layer upon layer of absolute wonder.
Well, that was the Museum of Archaeology. I know I didn't show too much. Nice little museum, only €5 to get in. Reasonably enjoyable, especially given the fact that I've been exploring the island, trying to understand the cart lines, trying to understand the archaeology of this beautiful, beautiful island, including Gigantia and all of the above. I'm pleased to get these little snippets of information as I walk around. Look, our first sighting of... where is it? See it there? Telephone box. I've literally just got to one of the monuments I've most been looking forward to getting to. It is a really significant monument in Maltese history. Not only is it a monument celebrating the Great Siege of Malta, where the Knights of St. John basically pushed off the Ottomans, defeating the Ottomans in a way that they went back with their tails between their legs. Basically, this monument shows the Knights of St. John, the brave knight in the middle with his sword basically standing victorious, saying, "We will not be defeated and we will not submit to Islam." We have the one on our left here holding up the papal serf, showing the loyalty to the Catholic Church. And then we also have this one showing the loyalty to education and learning. It's holding up a book. And it really is a beautiful monument, but it's made even more beautiful in recent years because this became a point of political gathering. And the fact that now this is a place where the Maltese come when they have something to vent about their government. And in recent years they did have a lot to vent because there was an assassination of a blogger, a journalist, a lady called Daphne. She was assassinated. Her car was blown up by Maltese mafia. Basically lost her life in 2017, basically revealing government corruption, links to the mafia. Since then she's been celebrated, since then she's been remembered. It's nice to see the fact that her monument is still here today. Her death was seen and heard throughout the entire world. It was a huge story when she was killed in 2017. The Maltese government was put into huge disgrace. The leadership had to step down. People have been found guilty and links to the assassination of Daphne, links to the mafia. Thankfully, people have been brought to justice, but there are still criminal elements lurking beneath the surface, as there is in every single society. Every single society has corruption, especially my own. The United Kingdom is the most corrupt government in all of Europe right now. So I don't snub the Maltese when I talk about the corruption that is here. And I think that is exactly why the protests are literally at that statue, because right opposite is the courts of justice. So this is where people are held to account, including those that work for the government. From my understanding is Malta is a really, really nice place to live in terms of if you're a businessman, the taxes are low, far lower than what we are subjected to in the United Kingdom. And I know many Brits have left the UK to come to Malta just simply because the tax system is so much fairer here. And I'd like to think that the court system is probably more fair here, because I know that we don't have a fair system in the United Kingdom. We have a two-tiered, multi-tiered system in the United Kingdom where some people get justice and others do not. My hope is the Maltese get real justice. I walk past the Maltese Valletta Cathedral knowing that I will be going back there later because there's so much to see at the cathedral and I'm very much looking forward to going in. I thought it'd be more appropriate to look around, maybe get some food, maybe get some energy first, and get myself all the way down, at least to the coast, and then loop back before I head into the cathedral, just in case you're wondering why did I miss the cathedral as I walk past that monument. I mean, there is literally so much to see. I could go into the staterooms here and basically check out the government offices. I could admire the different squares. I could sit back and enjoy having a glass of wine or have a long lunch. Look at this for a statue. I think you could spend a lot of time in Valletta, and in a way I'm kind of lucky because after today I get to come back I've got a conference for a couple of days and I get to come back again into Valletta, so I'm really quite pleased. But look at this. This is made 1919. Let's have a look. As you cross past the main square where all the action of all the main restaurants are, and you start heading out towards the coast, you find yourself walking down these steps to take you to the coast, and the streets are a little bit quieter. Tiny little silver smith shops, jewellery shops, the odd little cafe. There's a nice sign there that says cold beer, great friendly atmosphere. Campari, hangout bar. I imagine in the peak summer, it's a very different atmosphere. I certainly wouldn't be wearing, wouldn't be wearing a coat. But on a day like today, when you're in the shadows, it can be quite brisk. You got beautiful blue-ish skies, but there's a cool breeze in the air, and it's a very refreshing breeze. Here are the typical balconies that you see all over Malta. Some nicer than others, some made of wood, some painted beautifully. This street a little bit more shabby, but Malta is clearly on the up. There's a lot of construction work going on, as you can see right here. Guys doing construction. Scaffolding everywhere. I'm about to walk under some scaffolding in a moment. I pray that you don't get scaffolding in your face. Oh, see, workers everywhere. So Malta is certainly on the up. Look at all these beautiful balconies up here. Strange, but very Maltese. Beautiful balconies everywhere. It's almost at the coast. I've just arrived at Fort St. Elmo. This is historically an amazing place. Anyone that's familiar with the battle or the Siege of Malta is aware of Fort St. Elmo. The Knights of St. Elmo, basically here in 1565, put on one of the most bravest acts you could ever imagine, from knights, civilians, to even the peasants that were basically held up in this fort. They took on the Ottoman Empire, and not just the Ottoman Empire, the Barbary pirates who were also involved. They came up from Tripoli to basically take on the Knights of Malta. There were two forts on this side of the river, on the other side of the river, and then there was the Fort of St. Elmo on this side of the river. And what happened, and I'm going to learn more about it as I'm going to go in, because I'm just trying to conjure this from my memory banks. The Ottomans came through the streets that we walked down just a moment ago. They came through there. Well, first of all, they came across the fort, where the Fort of St. Elmo had all of their cannons, smashing the many ships. Many ships sunk. They then held up in the streets that were over here, but obviously the streets didn't look nothing like the ones we just walked through. They dug trenches. They were getting fired upon by the knights on that side of the river. The overwhelming force were pushing and pushing. A month-long siege basically on the Fort of St. Elmo. 1,500 brave knights were held up in here. Eventually they fell. Once they fell and the final ones were captured, the Ottoman savages basically beheaded every single person that was in here, every single one of them, and sending him across the river, one of the main knights, to the main contenders over there. They reacted as obviously as you'd expect. They then executed all of the prisoners, the Turkish prisoners that they had taken, cutting off their heads and then putting their heads into the cannons to then fire them back over at the Ottomans, who eventually had taken Fort St. Elmo. I think it was around about May. No, the battle began in May 1565, so they captured this in June 1565, but they didn't want to end up in the same way that the people of Goza had ended up in 1551, basically taken as slaves, brutalized by the Barbary pirates, something that they were prolific at doing. So even the locals were fighting back. But it doesn't end here, and I'll tell you more about what happened when we get to the other side over there. But just to be at this place, well, I'm excited to be here. See, now I'm inside Fort St. Elmo, and just imagine as you were having to look out, see the Ottoman Empire in their boats out there, St. Michael's Fort over there, knowing that your comrades are over there. I shouldn't use that term because they weren't comrades. They were brave knights, let's not use communist terms, brave knights that basically said, well, we're with you brothers, but at the same time knowing that those guys over there are witnessing this side being completely smashed after a month of being completely battered. It's truly a remarkable place, but at the same time it was also used as a base during the First and the Second World War. So we're going to go inside, check it out, because there's a lot of history here. Can you sense I'm a little bit excited? This history excites me when it comes to things like this. It's sad how I think the young of today, and that included myself when I was young, we weren't really taught about the bravery of men like the Knights of St. Elmo, when we really should be, because it could have taught us so many more lessons that may have averted the disaster that Europe is now heading into. Quite incredible. Where's that music coming from? It's quite incredible. The background music is here, not myself adding it. This is inside one of the gun turrets that basically look south across the Mediterranean. Obviously during the Second World War there was thinking that the Italians would invade. When Mussolini declared war on England, there was thinking that this would be one of the first places he would look to take. So they would have guns just like this. Don't know if you can see that. Yeah. Quite insane. This is a 6-pounder gun that went through production in 1934, service in 1937, and obviously it was here. This is 1941 during the war. It's called the E-gun. Quite incredible just to think of the size of this spinning turret. This is where the final siege of St. Elmo took place. This is where the knights were. The last resistance point was this chapel. At the end of the day, they were Knights of Christ battling Islam. And when they finally burst through probably these doors, they were then executed, all in the name of their faith. Wow. If these walls could talk. And look, here's the Maltese cross just above us. Beautiful cross. Hopefully you can hear me because of the wind, but this was attacked during the Second World War. Boats came from the Mediterranean, bombing this little area here where this bridge is. They were fired upon obviously by gun and boats. The attack was fended off. Thousands and thousands of tons of bombs dropped on Malta during the Second World War. I can't imagine how awful it would have been for the residents of Malta, because this was a prime spot. The Axis obviously wanted to take Malta. It would have been a prize for them, but they failed. It was extremely well defended, just in the same way they probably should have learnt a lesson from the Knights of Malta. It's not easy taking this place. So far, a very linear progression through the museum. You go from room 1 to room 2, room 3, room 4, room 5, and so on. There's no sort of moving off the track. A little bit of order. It's a really nice museum. Maybe a little bit basic in terms of the things that are on offer and the things they tell you, but I guess it has to appeal to everyone. But at the same time, it is very accessible to everyone. So it does the job, if that makes sense. But onwards, we take try number 5.
Give us this day all that you showed me, the power and the glory, till my kingdom comes. Give me all the story book told me.
I think that was nice. We got to see the letter where my video started. If you remember the start of this video where we saw the memorial to the Maltese, the letter written from Buckingham Palace rewarding them with the St George's Cross. Well, the letter was in there and the medal of the St George's Cross was in there, basically honouring them for their bravery. Basically, this place got battered, completely battered. As soon as Italy declared war on England and vice versa, and the Axis were all head to head, the Maltese got completely smashed over and over again by bombing raids after bombing raids. All of this was completely smashed. So the only way to boost morale, I guess, is the present day king of the empire sends a letter saying, look, your bravery is to be commended and here's a St George's Cross for that. And, you know, in a way it's a nice gesture. Well, I think I spent a good hour, 45 minutes in there. It might not be everyone's cup of tea. A little bit linear in the way you have to follow a path all the way around. You can't really detour from it. For me, it's quite exciting, and it was just amazing just to be in that chapel. The last stand. You all hear about Custer's last stand. Well, think about their last stand against the submission. They would not submit to Islam. They would not submit to the Mohammedans. Look at this, for an amazing, amazing church, just literally up a side alley, not really a side alley, we're going back up in towards the centre, and then there's this beautiful church, entrance currently closed, but wow, that is phenomenal. Still haven't eaten since breakfast, so I'm more inclined to get some food now, I think, given that it's getting late in the day. I had a banana and I had some peanuts, so I think it's time to be able to go into St John's Cathedral. So let's go check this out.
Stepping through these plain fortress-like doors on Republic Street, nothing prepares you for the explosion of beauty inside. This is St John's Cathedral, the spiritual powerhouse of the Knights of St John, raised between 1573 and 1578 by the Grand Master John de la Cassere, and dedicated to their patron saint, John the Baptist. These were the very same Hospitaller Knights who, only a few years earlier, in 1565, had stared down annihilation during the Great Siege. 700 knights alongside 1,000 Maltese faced down 40,000 Ottoman invaders, month after brutal month, and refused to yield. Their stand didn't just save Malta, it halted an empire that could have overrun Europe itself. These brave men should be thanked daily for centuries and centuries for years to come. Victorious, scarred, and profoundly grateful, the knights channeled everything, their wealth, their faith, their unbreakable spirit into building Valletta, and nowhere did they pour more of their soul than right here. Look down beneath our feet. More than 400 inlaid marble tombs create what many call the most beautiful floor in any cathedral. A vivid mosaic honouring knights from every corner of Europe who gave their lives in service. Skulls, skeletons, trumpeting angels, captured arms. Every slab is a vivid reminder that death comes for all of us, yet glory endures. Now as we lift our eyes to the vaulted ceilings, you can't help but look up over and over at again. These are Matteo Pretti's monumental frescoes covering every inch of this beautiful cathedral. Painted in the 1660s by this knight turned master of Baroque drama, scenes from the life of St John the Baptist burst from life and movement. Figures seemingly breaking free of the stone, reaching towards heaven in a triumph of light and faith. The gilded walls and the carved pillars showcase the 8 langues, the national groups of the order: Aragon, Italy, France, Germany, Auvergne, Provence, Castile, and Anglo-Bavaria. Each of these legues sponsored its own lavish side chapel, competing in devotion and splendour. A dazzling display of brotherhood across borders, united by one cause: to resist Islam at all costs and to stand by their Christian God. Then comes the oratory, the Knights Chapter Room, and the painting that stops everyone in their tracks: Caravaggio's colossal beheading of St. John the Baptist. Completed in 1608, his largest canvas, the only one he ever signed, his name hidden in the blood flowing from the saint's neck. Stark light cuts through darkness, freezing the moment of martyrdom. The executioner's final strokes, Salome waiting with her platter, onlookers caught between horror and resolve. Caravaggio had fled here seeking refuge and was briefly knighted before his own troubles forced him onward. Yet in his work he captured the raw essence of the order's patron. Courage in the face of death, faith that does not flinch.
You don't expect to see Caravaggio when you enter a church or a cathedral, but then again, this is Malta, where, well, they value probably the most Christian nation on the planet.
Standing amid this overwhelming gold, marble, and genius, it's impossible not to feel the full weight of what these men achieved. They were warriors and healers, guardians of Christendom who turned a barren peninsula into one of the most fortified and beautiful cities ever built. Their bravery must never be forgotten. The kind of Christianity they embodied wasn't the soft, submissive sort. It was a fierce, knightly faith that took the fight straight to the enemy, sword in one hand, cross in the other, and who knows, one day soon Europe may need men of the same iron resolve again. This cathedral stands as living proof of what faith, brotherhood, and sheer will can create. Moments like these, at least for me, are why Malta and Valletta seize hold of you and never let you go.
Well, I have to say the cathedral was magnificent and wow. And also wow because we are right next to the cathedral of basically Jean de Valette. Valletta effectively has been named after this champion, the man that basically beat off the Ottomans. He was the commander of the Great Siege and he fended off the ruthlessness of the Mohammedans that were so intent on destroying this land and basically submitting it to Islam. Hence the reason the city is named after him. This is just one of these cities that grabs you and says, yeah, I'm quite a special, magnificent place. This used to be some sort of old Roman ruins over here. We're going to just walk up here just to get a bit of height. Reality is there's so much to see in the city and it just simply can't be done with one video. We can see these brand new buildings, we can see the 100 other museums. There's one over here. We could observe the cannons that get launched every day. We could take in every single statue. Maybe there's a statue for every Prime Minister. There's a statue, I certainly know, to Queen Victoria in this place. There is even modern art we could sit back and admire. But there isn't enough hours in the day, and it's one of the reasons that you have to come visit for yourself. If you're looking for an extra insight into Malta, check out my other Maltese videos. Like, for example, this is Dominic. He was a Prime Minister between 55 and 58, 71 and 84. Check out my blog, thewanderingenglishman.com. There you'll have insight into the hotels around Malta, and you'll also have insight into best places to stay, an essential guide. It's completely free. Click on it, it's there. But hopefully until next time, I will see you in the next video. Thank you to my members, the patrons, the subscribe star people. You are the guys that help make these videos. So thank you very much, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Until next time, keep progressing.